Great achievement is usually born of great sacrifice and is never the result of selfishness. In the silent hours before dawn, when the world still sleeps, greatness is being forged in the crucible of discipline. This is the moment that defines destinies, separates the extraordinary from the ordinary, and determines who will merely dream and who will actually achieve. The price of greatness is paid daily, not in grand gestures but in small, consistent actions that compound over time. And today, right now, you stand at this precipice of decision that will echo throughout your entire future. There exists within you a power so profound, so immeasurable, that if fully unleashed would transform not just your life, but the very fabric of reality around you. This is not mere motivation, this is truth etched into the annals of human achievement, demonstrated by every man and woman who has ever risen from obscurity to excellence. The same force that allowed Edison to persevere through 10,000 failures before illuminating the world. The same power that enabled Ford to revolutionize industry when experts said his vision was impossible. The same energy that fueled the rise of empires, the creation of masterpieces, and the building of fortunes that have stood the test of time. Consider for a moment, what separates those who merely exist from those who truly live? What distinguishes the person who watches history unfold from the one who creates it? It is not talent alone, for the world is filled with talented failures. It is not education alone, for our institutions are graduating brilliant minds who achieve nothing remarkable. It is not luck, for fortune's favor is fleeting and cannot sustain success. The only difference that matters is found in how one responds to that quiet voice within, that voice which now whispers to you about possibilities beyond your current circumstances, the voice that has always been there, sometimes drowned out by doubt, fear, or the opinions of others who settled for less than they were capable of becoming. Listen carefully, for this truth has transformed beggars into businessmen, immigrants into industry titans, and ordinary people into legends. Greatness is not bestowed, it is developed. Success is not an accident, but the natural consequence of specific habits of mind and action performed with religious consistency. Napoleon Hill, after studying the most successful individuals of his era for over 25 years, distilled this wisdom into principles that have withstood the test of time. These are not theories or wishful thinking, but practical laws of achievement as reliable as gravity. And yet, knowing these principles is not enough. Knowledge without application is merely potential, and potential without action remains forever unrealized. You may wonder why some hear these same truths and transform their lives completely, while others remain unchanged. The answer lies not in the information itself, but in what happens in that crucial moment, when wisdom meets will, when knowing meets doing, when inspiration confronts the resistance of comfort and habit. This present moment right now as these words reach you represent such a crossroads, an invitation to step beyond contemplation into commitment, beyond interest into obsession, beyond wishful thinking into relentless execution. The path ahead will not be easy, let this be said plainly. The price of greatness is paid in full, and it is paid daily. It demands sacrifice. It requires giving up what you want now for what you want most. While others sleep, you must work. While others spend, you must invest. While others complain, you must create solutions. While others make excuses, you must make progress. Consider Andrew Carnegie, once a penniless immigrant who worked in a cotton factory for pennies a day. What transformed him into one of history's greatest industrialists and philanthropists? It was his recognition that wealth begins not in the pocket but in the mind, that fortune favors not the privileged but the prepared, that success comes not to those who need it most but to those who deserve it most. Through their thoughts and actions, in your hands now lies the same opportunity that Carnegie seized, the same principles that guided Ford, Edison, and every great achiever throughout history are available to you. But principles without practice are worthless, knowledge without action is poverty despite the wealth of information. Imagine yourself 1 year from today. Will you be essentially the same person, with the same habits, challenges, and unfulfilled potential? Or will you have undergone a transformation so profound that your former self would hardly recognize the person you've become, the choice genuinely and completely belongs to you alone, not to your circumstances, not to your past, not to the opinions or expectations of others. The first step toward this transformation begins with a fundamental shift in how you perceive yourself and your capabilities. Most people live far below their potential because they have accepted limiting beliefs about what they can achieve. These beliefs were not chosen consciously, but absorbed unconsciously from well-meaning parents who wanted to protect you from disappointment, from teachers who emphasized limitations rather than possibilities, from a society that conditions mediocrity and conformity over excellence and authenticity. These beliefs now operate as invisible barriers, as real and restrictive as physical walls, though they exist only in thought. I'm not smart enough. I don't have the right connections. I'm too old to start now. Success is for other people, not someone like me. These thoughts circle in the mind like vultures, feeding on ambition and possibility until all that remains is resignation disguised as realism. But what if these limitations are merely illusions? What if your potential is actually limitless? Consider for a moment that the same power that created stars also created you. The same intelligence that orchestrates the precision of the universe flows through your mind. The same creative force that brings forth all invention, art, and progress is available to you in this very moment. This is not spiritual rhetoric, but practical psychology. Napoleon Hill discovered that successful people think differently. They cultivate a burning desire for achievement that overwhelms all obstacles. They maintain unwavering faith in their ability to accomplish their goals. They develop detailed plans and take persistent action despite temporary defeat. And perhaps, most importantly, they align themselves with others who elevate rather than diminish their ambitions. Your mind is a garden where you plant either success or failure every day, in every moment. The seeds of thought you nurture will inevitably produce corresponding results in your external circumstances. This is not mysticism, it is cause and effect. The outer world of experience always reflects the inner world of belief and expectation. Look around you now. Everything you see in your life, your financial situation, relationships, health, career achievements began as thoughts that crystallized into habits, which solidified into circumstances. If you want different results, you must begin with different thoughts, cultivate different habits, and take different actions with unrelenting persistence. Disney was once fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. Lincoln failed in business multiple times and suffered numerous political defeats before becoming president. J.K. Rowling was rejected by 12 publishers before Harry Potter was accepted. Their eventual success wasn't despite these obstacles, but because of how they responded to them. They understood that failure is not the opposite of success, but an essential component of it. The path to greatness requires this paradoxical embrace of failure as feedback, not finality. Each setback contains a lesson that, properly understood, moves you closer to your goal. The obstacle is the way. The resistance is the training ground. The challenge is the opportunity disguised in work clothes, as Thomas Edison would say. Edison himself exemplifies this principle perfectly. After thousands of unsuccessful attempts to create a functional light bulb, he was asked if he felt like a failure. His response reveals the mindset that separates achievers from dreamers. I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work. This perspective transforms what would crush an ordinary person into fuel for the extraordinary. You must now decide, will you be ordinary or extraordinary? Will you accept the limitations placed upon you by others, or break free into the boundless potential that is your birthright? Will you continue making excuses or start making progress? Will you remain in the comfortable confines of the known, or venture into the exhilarating territory of possibility? The greatest tragedy in life is not failure, but the failure to try. The saddest words are not "I tried and failed," but "I never attempted what my heart truly desired." Deathbed regrets rarely center on risks taken, but almost always on chances not seized, dreams not pursued, and potential not expressed. Consider this: everything worthwhile in human history was once considered impossible, until someone decided it was necessary. Flight was impossible until the Wright brothers made it inevitable. Instant global communication was fantasy until it became commonplace. The 4-minute mile was a physical impossibility, until Roger Bannister shattered not just the record, but the limiting belief itself, after which many others quickly accomplished the same impossible feat. What impossibilities are you accepting in your own life? What dreams have you abandoned not because they were truly unattainable, but because the path seemed too difficult? What greatness lies dormant within you, waiting only for the courage to be expressed? The price of greatness is paid daily through unwavering clarity about what you want and why you want it. Vague wishes produce vague results. Specific goals pursued with specific plans yield specific achievements. You must define your desires with such precision that they become almost tangible, so clear that you could explain them to a child, so compelling that they pull you forward even on days when motivation wanes. Napoleon Hill called this clarity, definiteness of purpose, the starting point of all achievement. Without it, energy dissipates in 1,000 directions, leaving you exhausted but no closer to meaningful accomplishment. With it, even ordinary talents combine to produce extraordinary results. This definiteness must extend beyond material goals to encompass your entire vision for your life. What kind of person do you wish to become? What contribution do you want to make? What would constitute a life well lived according to your deepest values? These questions require quiet contemplation, honest self-examination, and the courage to define success on your own terms rather than accepting society's defaults. For many, success means financial prosperity, and there is nothing wrong with desiring material abundance. Money represents not just comfort, but freedom, the freedom to make choices, to help others, to pursue further growth without constraint. But wealth without purpose quickly turns hollow, as evidenced by the many rich but miserable individuals who achieved financial goals without clarifying what truly matters to them. The most fulfilled individuals are those who align material success with meaningful purpose, who build fortunes not just to have, but to do and to become. Their wealth becomes a tool for greater impact rather than merely a scorecard of achievement. They understand that true prosperity encompasses not just finances, but relationships, health, contribution, growth, and spiritual fulfillment. With clarity of purpose established, the next price of greatness is paid in unwavering belief, what Hill termed faith. Not blind faith, but a cultivated, deliberate conviction that your goals are not just possible but inevitable given sufficient effort and persistence. This belief must be stronger than temporary setbacks, louder than criticism, more enduring than occasional self-doubt. Such faith is not granted, but developed through specific mental practices. You must saturate your mind with the certainty of achievement by visualizing your success with such intensity that your subconscious accepts it as reality before external circumstances confirm it. You must speak affirmations that declare accomplishment as if it were already completed. You must study biographies of those who overcame similar or greater obstacles to reinforce the knowledge that what one person has done, another can do. Admiral Byrd, before his historic flight over the North Pole, wrote, "Faith is the extension of vision into the realm of the unknown." This precisely captures the nature of the belief required for extraordinary achievement. You must see clearly what does not yet exist, feel genuinely what has not yet manifested, and act confidently before evidence supports your conviction. This faith becomes the foundation for perhaps the most important mental faculty in the achievement of greatness: imagination applied with purpose. Every human advancement began as an image in someone's mind before it became reality. The skyscraper existed first in thought, then on paper, then in steel and glass. The computer was conceived before it was constructed. The business was envisioned before it was established. Your imagination is not a frivolous faculty for idle daydreaming, but the workshop of achievement where possibilities are forged before they are expressed. Through applied imagination, you transcend current limitations, solve seemingly insurmountable problems, and create pathways where none previously existed. Consider how James Allen, in his masterwork As a Man Thinketh, explained this process. You will become as small as your controlling desire, as great as your dominant aspiration. The imagination sets the upper limit of accomplishment by first creating the internal image that all action then strives to make external. The price of greatness demands that you harness this creative faculty not occasionally, but continuously directing it deliberately toward your objectives, rather than allowing it to wander aimlessly or, worse, to construct elaborate scenarios of failure and limitation. The untrained imagination typically defaults to fear-based projections. The disciplined imagination becomes the most practical tool for achievement. With purpose clarified, belief cultivated, and imagination directed, the price continues to be paid through persistent, productive action. Ideas without implementation remain forever potential, never kinetic. Planning without execution is merely organized procrastination. Knowledge without application has no power to transform circumstances. Look at any area where you've been dissatisfied with results, and you'll likely find not a lack of knowing what to do, but a lack of consistently doing what you know. The chasm between knowledge and results is bridged only by action, relentless, strategic, and increasingly effective action refined through experience. Henry Ford didn't theorize about assembly lines, he built them. Shakespeare didn't just conceive of plays, he wrote them. Marie Curie didn't merely hypothesize about radioactivity. She conducted experiments that nearly cost her life. Their greatness was paid for not in contemplation alone, but in sustained effort directed toward specific outcomes. This action must be guided by what Napoleon Hill called organized knowledge, not random activity, but strategic implementation based on accumulating wisdom and adjusting methods based on results. The person who works hard but lacks knowledge wastes energy. The person with knowledge who doesn't work hard wastes potential. The combination of relevant knowledge and persistent action creates unstoppable momentum. The daily price of greatness also includes the development of supreme focus, the ability to concentrate completely on the task at hand despite distractions, discomfort, or competing priorities. In an age of unprecedented interruption and fragmented attention, this capacity becomes increasingly rare and therefore increasingly valuable. William James, the father of American psychology, stated, "The faculty of voluntarily bringing back a wandering attention over and over again is the very root of judgment, character, and will. No one is composed sui master of himself if he have it not. An education which should improve this faculty would be the education par excellence." This mastery of attention separates achievement from mere busyness. The person who attempts many things simultaneously accomplishes few completely. The person who focuses intensely on one important task until completion generates momentum that carries forward into the next priority. This is not just productivity, but effectiveness, doing what matters most, not merely doing many things. The cultivation of focus requires establishing boundaries around your time, energy, and attention. It means learning to say no to the merely good to preserve capacity for the truly great. It demands digital discipline in an age where technology constantly competes for cognitive resources. It necessitates regular periods of deep work-focused, uninterrupted concentration on challenging tasks that produce meaningful results. Focus alone, however, is insufficient without its essential complement, intelligent persistence in the face of obstacles, setbacks, and temporary failure. Any worthwhile achievement will test your resolve multiple times before success is realized. The timid abandons ship at the first sign of rough waters. The merely interested quit when interest fades. The committed persist until completion regardless of difficulty. This persistence is not mindless stubbornness, but strategic determination. It means trying different approaches when initial methods fail. It requires adjusting tactics while maintaining the ultimate objective. It demands learning from each unsuccessful attempt to inform the next effort. Consider the persistence of Colonel Sanders, who was rejected 1,009 times before finding a restaurant willing to use his chicken recipe. Or J.K. Rowling, who faced 12 rejections before Harry Potter was published. Or Abraham Lincoln, who endured multiple business and political failures before becoming one of history's most consequential presidents. Their greatness was paid for in persistence that would have broken lesser spirits. The daily price of greatness also includes continuous learning and adaptation. The world is changing at an accelerating pace, rendering yesterday's knowledge increasingly obsolete. Those who stop learning stop growing, and those who stop growing soon find themselves irrelevant in evolving marketplaces and societies. This learning must be deliberate and strategic, focused on acquiring knowledge and skills directly relevant to your objectives, reading widely, studying deeply, seeking mentorship from those who have already achieved what you aspire to, experimenting with new approaches, reflecting on experiences to extract wisdom. These become not occasional activities, but lifestyle practices for the achievement-oriented individual. Thomas Jefferson captured this principle when he wrote, "I cannot live without books." Leonardo da Vinci maintained notebooks filled with observations, questions, and ideas from multiple disciplines. Benjamin Franklin organized mutual improvement clubs where members shared knowledge and challenged each other's thinking. Their greatness was paid for in lifelong intellectual curiosity and deliberate skill acquisition. The price of greatness further demands emotional mastery, the ability to regulate your internal states rather than being controlled by them. Every worthwhile achievement will trigger resistance, not just externally but internally: fear, doubt, frustration, impatience, disappointment. These emotions arise naturally on the path to significant accomplishment. The average person becomes a victim of these emotions, allowing them to dictate behavior. The achievement-oriented individual acknowledges these feelings, but doesn't surrender decision-making authority to them. They develop the capacity to act despite fear, to maintain confidence despite doubt, to remain composed despite frustration, to sustain patience despite urgency, and to cultivate hope despite disappointment. This emotional mastery comes through specific practices: meditation to develop awareness of thoughts and feelings without being dominated by them, physical exercise to release tension and generate positive neurochemistry, strategic reframing of challenges as opportunities, gratitude to maintain perspective and resilience, and community with others who understand and support your journey. Perhaps the most demanding aspect of the price of greatness is paid in your relationships, specifically in the courageous choices about who you allow to influence your thinking, beliefs, and ambitions. Jim Rohn's observation that you become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with isn't just motivational rhetoric, but psychological reality. Those around you create an invisible environment of expectation, possibility, and standard. Associate primarily with small thinkers, and your vision shrinks accordingly. Spend time with victims, and you begin seeing yourself as one. Surround yourself with mediocrity, and excellence becomes not just difficult, but almost inconceivable. Conversely, when you deliberately seek out relationships with individuals who think bigger, achieve more, and demand better from themselves and others, your own standards naturally elevate. Their accomplishments make yours seem more attainable. Their mindset becomes contagious. Their challenges provide perspective for your own. This often requires difficult decisions about limiting or ending relationships that no longer serve your growth, not from arrogance but from necessity. Every truly successful person has faced this crucible of choice between comfortable relationships and necessary growth. Many would rather remain mediocre than risk disapproval from those whose acceptance feels essential. Napoleon Hill called this the mastermind principle, the notion that when 2 or more minds unite in harmony toward a specific purpose, they create a third, more powerful mind that accesses wisdom and resources beyond what any individual could generate alone. This principle operates in reverse as well. Align yourself with negative, limited thinking, and your own capacity diminishes accordingly. The daily price of greatness also includes the cultivation of specialized knowledge and skills that create disproportionate value in the marketplace. General knowledge has general value. Specialized expertise can command extraordinary compensation. This doesn't mean narrow learning, but rather deep competence in areas where your natural abilities, acquired skills, and authentic interests converge. Peter Drucker, the father of modern management thinking, observed in The Knowledge Economy, the most valuable asset of a 21st century institution, whether business or non-business, will be its knowledge workers and their productivity. This insight applies not just to organizations, but to individuals. Your economic value correlates directly with the problems you can solve and the opportunities you can create through applied knowledge. The specialization doesn't happen accidentally but through deliberate practice. Not just doing something repeatedly, but challenging yourself continuously at the edge of your current capabilities. analyzing results, adjusting approach, and pursuing regular feedback from qualified sources. This is how average performers become extraordinary, how apprentices become masters, how employees become entrepreneurs. Anders Ericsson's research on expertise development revealed that the difference between good and great performers isn't just time invested, but how that time is used. 10,000 hours of mindless repetition produces very different results than 10,000 hours of deliberate, focused improvement addressing specific weaknesses and building particular strengths. The price of greatness further includes disciplined financial habits, not just earning well, but managing resources strategically to create lasting prosperity rather than temporary comfort. Most people work for money their entire lives. The financially intelligent make money work for them through systematic saving, wise investing, and the creation of assets that generate passive income. Consider that most lottery winners return to their previous financial position within 5 years despite receiving transformative sums. Why? Because wealth is not primarily about how much you receive, but about the financial habits, knowledge, and discipline you develop. The mindset that created financial struggle cannot create financial freedom without fundamental transformation. Warren Buffett, perhaps history's greatest investor, lives modestly despite enormous wealth because he understands that consumption diminishes capital, while investment multiplies it. His partner Charlie Munger observed, "The first rule of compounding is to never interrupt it unnecessarily." This patience to allow assets to grow over time rather than consuming immediately separates the temporarily affluent from the genuinely wealthy. The price of greatness must also be paid in physical vitality, the development and maintenance of the energy, stamina, and health necessary for sustained high performance. Your body is not separate from your achievement, but the vessel through which all accomplishment occurs. Neglect physical well-being, and every other area eventually suffers. Richard Branson, when asked about his productivity secret, answered, "I seriously doubt that I would have been as successful in my career and happy in my personal life if I hadn't always placed importance on my health and fitness." This isn't vanity, but practical wisdom. Energy, clarity, resilience, and longevity all stem from physical practices that the achievement-minded person cannot afford to neglect. Regular exercise, proper nutrition, sufficient sleep, stress management, and preventive health care become not luxuries, but necessities, investments that yield returns across every dimension of life and work. The disciplined body supports the disciplined mind in ways that become increasingly apparent as responsibilities and challenges grow. The price of greatness also demands intellectual honesty, the willingness to see reality clearly, rather than how you wish it to be. Many fail not because their goals are unattainable, but because they refuse to acknowledge uncomfortable truths that, if addressed, would clear the path to achievement. Ray Dalio, founder of the world's largest hedge fund, emphasizes radical transparency as a core principle of success. This means seeking out disconfirming evidence for your beliefs, welcoming constructive criticism, analyzing failures without excuse or blame, and continuously testing assumptions against results. Most people protect their egos through self-deception. Achievers protect their results through ruthless self-examination. This honesty extends to your relationship with time, arguably your most precious and limited resource. How you spend your hours ultimately becomes how you spend your life. Extraordinary achievement requires extraordinary time management, not through rigid control, but through conscious alignment with priorities. Peter Drucker advised, "Until we can manage time, we can manage nothing else." This management begins with eliminating the unnecessary activities, obligations, and distractions that consume time without contributing meaningfully to your most important objectives. It continues with the optimization of necessary tasks through systems, delegation, and technological leverage where appropriate. The greatest time management skill, however, is the capacity to distinguish between the urgent and the important, to resist the tyranny of the immediate in favor of activities that produce long-term significance. Email, messages, and minor emergencies create the illusion of productivity while often pushing aside the deep work that moves major priorities forward. Stephen Covey illustrated this principle with his time management matrix. Categorizing activities based on urgency and importance. Most people's time gets consumed by urgent matters, both important and unimportant, leaving little capacity for non-urgent, but critically important activities like strategic planning, relationship building, skill development, and preventive measures. The achievement-oriented individual inverts this pattern, investing heavily in important but non-urgent priorities that prevent many urgencies from arising at all. The price of greatness further includes the development of communication skills that translate internal vision into external influence. Ideas remain dormant without the ability to articulate them compellingly. Leadership is impossible without the capacity to inspire action in OT. Hers, opportunities vanish without the skill to present yourself and your value proposition effectively. Warren Buffett once told a class of business students that he would pay $100 for 10% of their future earnings if they improved their communication skills. When asked what skill provided the greatest return on investment, he didn't hesitate. Improving your communication skills, both written and verbal, will increase your value by at least 50%. This development happens not through theory but through practice, writing regularly, speaking publicly, engaging in meaningful dialogue, studying masterful communicators, and continuously refining your ability to connect with others through words, presence, and authentic expression. The most brilliant ideas have no impact if they cannot be communicated effectively to those whose support and action you require. The daily price of greatness also demands the cultivation of empathy and emotional intelligence, the ability to understand others' perspectives, needs, and motivations. No significant achievement happens in isolation. You will always depend on others' cooperation, support, purchasing decisions, investments, partnerships, or permissions. Daniel Goleman's research on performance factors found that emotional intelligence accounts for 90% of the difference between average and star performers in leadership positions. Technical knowledge gets you in the door. Emotional intelligence determines how far you advance and how effectively you can mobilize others towards shared objectives. This intelligence develops through conscious practice, deep listening without planning your response, genuine curiosity about others' experiences, attention to nonverbal cues, recognition of emotional patterns in yourself and others, and the capacity to adapt your approach based on the person and situation, rather than using a one-size-fits-all method of interaction. Perhaps the most overlooked aspect of the price of greatness is what might be called spiritual alignment, the integration of achievement with deeper purpose, values, and contribution. Purely materialistic success ultimately rings hollow, as evidenced by countless wealthy but miserable individuals who reach their goals only to discover they had been climbing the wrong ladder. This alignment requires regular reflection on questions that transcend tactics and strategies. Why does this goal matter beyond personal gain? How does this work contribute to others' well-being? What values am I expressing or compromising through my actions? What legacy am I creating beyond financial measurements? How does this achievement connect to something larger than myself? Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps to become a pioneering psychiatrist, observed, success, like happiness, cannot be pursued, it must ensue. And it only does so as the unintended side effect of one's personal dedication to a cause greater than oneself. The greatest achievers throughout history understood this principle. Their material success flowed from dedication to purpose, rather than from pursuit of profit alone. This spiritual dimension provides not just meaning, but resilience. When inevitable setbacks occur, purpose sustains effort. When lesser motivations falter, when criticism comes, values provide an internal compass that doesn't depend on external validation. When achievement requires sacrifice, contribution justifies temporary discomfort for lasting impact. The final aspect of the price of greatness, one that encompasses all others, is the commitment to continuous growth in every dimension of life. This growth mindset, as researched extensively by Carol Dweck, sees challenges as opportunities for development rather than threats to identity. It embraces feedback as valuable data rather than personal rejection. It views failure as temporary and instructive rather than permanent and defining. With this mindset, every experience becomes either a victory or a lesson, with no possibility of ultimate defeat except through surrender. Every obstacle serves not as a barrier, but as a strength-building resistance. Every criticism offers not devastation, but potential refinement. Every setback provides not proof of limitation, but clarity about necessary adjustments. This commitment to growth manifests as a series of daily practices: reading that expands knowledge, reflection that deepens wisdom, experimentation that tests assumptions, feedback that sharpens skills, challenges that build capacity, and relationships that stretch perspective. Growth becomes not an occasional event, but a continuous process inseparable from existence itself. The price of greatness, then, is not paid once but continuously. It is not extracted from you, but invested by you in yourself and your possibilities. It requires not just external action, but internal transformation, becoming the person capable of achieving and sustaining the success you envision. Consider now, are you willing to pay this price? Not partially but completely, not temporarily but permanently, not conditionally but unconditionally. The world reserves its rewards for those who answer with resolute affirmation, not just in words, but in consistent choices that align with aspiration. You stand now at the threshold of decision. Behind you lies all that you have been and done until this moment. Before you stretches all that you might become and achieve from this point forward. The gap between these two realities will be bridged only by your willingness to invest daily in your own greatness, to pay the price that transforms potential into performance, dreams into achievements, and ordinary existence into extraordinary living. The time for half measures and hesitation has passed. The moment for complete commitment has arrived. Within you resides all the capacity required, the intelligence, creativity, discipline, and determination necessary for achievement beyond what you have previously imagined possible. Others with less ability, fewer resources, and greater obstacles have created lives of exceptional accomplishment and contribution. Their achievements stand not as intimidating comparisons, but as inspiring confirmations of what is possible when a human being fully commits to the development and expression of their inherent greatness. Your journey begins now, not tomorrow when conditions might be more favorable, not next week when you feel more motivated, not next month when circumstances might be more convenient, but in this precise moment as you absorb these words and make the fundamental choice that determines all subsequent results. Will you continue as before, hoping for different outcomes while maintaining the same thoughts, habits, and actions? Or will you embrace transformation, beginning with your mindset, extending to your daily practices, and ultimately reshaping your entire experience of life and work? The price of greatness awaits your decision, not a decision made once, but renewed in every moment through conscious choice. Not a decision spoken, but a decision lived through consistent alignment of thought, word, and deed. The universe stands ready to respond to your choice, not with magical intervention, but with the natural operation of cause and effect. As you think, you become. As you act, you achieve. As you persist, you prevail. This is not philosophy, but physics, the translation of focused energy into tangible results. Through the medium of disciplined action, the greatest achievements of history await their future creators. Breakthroughs, innovations, businesses, artistic expressions, social transformations all exist now as possibilities awaiting someone with the courage to convert them into realities. Will you be that person? Will you pay the price that greatness demands? The answer lies not in words, but in the actions that follow this moment of decision. Not in intention, but in implementation. Not in what you feel inspired to do, but in what you actually do despite fluctuating emotions. Not in momentary motivation, but in habitual discipline that continues. When motivation inevitably wanes, begin now. Take the first step, however small, in the direction of your highest aspiration. Then take another and another, building momentum that eventually becomes unstoppable. Each step makes the next one easier. Each achievement makes greater ones more believable. Each day of disciplined action makes the next day's discipline more natural. The price of greatness is paid daily, but so are its rewards. Each investment in your development returns dividends in capability, confidence, and concrete results. Each sacrifice of immediate gratification for long-term growth yields exponential returns over time. Each moment of focused effort compounds like interest, creating achievement that eventually appears miraculous to those who didn't witness the daily investments that produced it. Your future self is watching you now, hoping you will make the decision that changes everything. The people whose lives you might impact are waiting, whether they know it or not, for you to become the person capable of that contribution. The world itself has a place prepared for the gifts that only your fully developed greatness can provide. The price is substantial, but the cost of not paying it is far greater. The cost of unrealized potential, unfulfilled purpose, and the quiet desperation of knowing you could have become more, but chose comfort over growth, conformity over courage, excuse over execution. Choose greatness. Pay its price gladly, knowing the value of what you will receive in return, not just external achievements, but internal transformation, not just acquisition but contribution, not just success, but significance in a life fully lived according to your highest capabilities. The journey of greatness is not easy, but it is worthwhile beyond measure. It is not without challenges, but these challenges forge the character and capacity that make the journey possible. It is not without risk, but the greatest risk of all is the failure to attempt what your heart and mind know is possible for you. Napoleon Hill wrote, "Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve." This is not empty motivation, but profound truth about human potential. Your mind has already conceived possibilities beyond your current reality. Your belief in these possibilities may waver, but can be strengthened through knowledge, practice, and association with others who demonstrate what is possible. The achievement itself awaits only your decision to begin and persist to pay daily the price that transforms ordinary into extraordinary, possible into actual, potential into performance. This decision belongs to you alone and cannot be made by anyone else on your behalf. It cannot be postponed indefinitely without cost. It stands before you now, awaiting your response. What will you decide? How will you act on that decision? When will you begin the transformation that only begins when knowledge meets action, when inspiration meets implementation, when possibility meets persistence? The price of greatness is paid daily, beginning today, beginning now. The path you walk from this moment forward will not be perfect. There will be days when motivation fails, when doubt creeps in, when exhaustion tempts compromise. But greatness is not built on perfect days. It is forged through perfect commitment to progress despite imperfect conditions. The champions, the legends, the revolutionaries throughout history, they were not free from weakness or immune to struggle. They simply refused to be defined by temporary limitations or momentary failures. Remember that Edison's laboratory burned to the ground when he was 67 years old, destroying years of work and research. His response? "Thank goodness all our mistakes were burned up. Now we can start fresh again." By morning, he was already rebuilding. This is the resilience that distinguishes the extraordinary from the ordinary. Not the absence of catastrophe, but the presence of unshakable determination in its aftermath. Your journey toward greatness will sometimes feel isolating. The majority will not understand your sacrifices, your obsessions, your standards. They cannot comprehend why you work while they rest, why you save while they spend, why you study while they seek entertainment. This incomprehension is not evidence that your path is wrong, but confirmation that it is uncommon. And the uncommon life produces uncommon results. Walt Disney was once told by a banker that his idea for an amusement park was ridiculous. That banker couldn't envision what Disney saw clearly: not just rides and attractions, but a completely immersive experience that would transform entertainment forever. Had Disney listened to the conventional wisdom of his day, the world would have lost not just Disneyland, but the entire concept of the modern theme park and the joy it has brought to countless lives. Your vision may seem equally ridiculous to those around you. Their skepticism reflects not the limits of your potential, but the constraints of their imagination. The truly visionary has always appeared slightly mad to the conventionally minded. Allow this to reassure, rather than discourage you. You're in excellent company on the path less traveled. As you continue paying the daily price of greatness, remember that consistency trumps intensity. The person who takes massive action occasionally will be surpassed by the individual who takes meaningful action daily. Small improvements compound into massive transformation when applied with religious consistency. This is the mathematics of achievement. Modest daily growth multiplied by time equals exponential progress. Consider the bamboo farmer who plants seeds and sees no visible evidence of growth for 5 years, while watering and tending daily. Then, in just 6 weeks, the bamboo grows 90 feet. Did the growth occur in 6 weeks or 5 years? The answer, of course, is both. The visible growth simply revealed what had been developing invisibly beneath the surface all along. So it will be with your journey. There will be periods where effort seems to yield no measurable progress, where the price is paid, but the rewards remain unseen. During these plateaus, the amateur abandons ship while the professional continues the process, trusting that growth occurs first within before manifesting without. Patience coupled with persistence becomes not just a virtue, but a strategic advantage. The price of greatness includes embracing what Napoleon Hill called going the extra mile, exceeding expectations, delivering more than required, serving beyond obligation, in a world where mediocrity has become acceptable and cutting corners commonplace. This principle creates extraordinary differentiation. The person who consistently gives more than expected eventually receives more than anticipated. This principle operates like compound interest in human relationships and professional reputation. Each instance of exceptional service, unexpected value, or unrequired effort adds to a reservoir of goodwill and distinction that eventually reaches critic mass, creating opportunities, partnerships, and possibilities closed to those who merely meet minimum standards. As you implement these principles, remain vigilant against what might be called the enemies of greatness: complacency that follows initial success, entitlement that demands results without corresponding effort, perfectionism that prevents progress through paralysis, comparison that steals joy and focus through envy of others' journeys, and cynicism that dismisses possibility before attempting achievement. These enemies attack not from without but from within through thought patterns and emotional reactions that seem reasonable in the moment, but prove destructive to long-term greatness. Combat them through conscious choice rather than automatic response, deciding in advance how you will think and act when these internal opponents inevitably rise. The final element in paying the price of greatness is perhaps the most challenging: learning to embrace uncertainty as the necessary companion of significant achievement. The path to extraordinary outcomes never unfolds with complete clarity from beginning to end. If you can see the entire journey before taking the first step, your destination is likely too small for your potential. True greatness requires venturing beyond the comfort of the known into territories unmarked on conventional maps. It demands faith not in perfect information, but in your capacity to adapt, learn, and navigate through incomplete information. It necessitates trust not in guaranteed outcomes, but in the process of persistent, intelligent effort guided by purpose. Michelangelo did not know exactly how the David would emerge from the marble. He discovered it through the disciplined application of his craft. Einstein did not have complete certainty about relativity before pursuing his theories. He followed logical possibilities to their conclusions despite incomplete evidence. Edison did not know which filament would finally sustain light. He eliminated failed options until discovering success. So it will be with your journey. Complete certainty is neither available nor necessary for remarkable achievement. What is required is complete commitment to the process, the daily price paid in full, regardless of temporary results or fleeting emotions. This commitment transforms uncertainty from paralyzing fear into exhilarating possibility, not an obstacle to progress, but the very space in which innovation and discovery occur. As this message concludes, remember that you exist in a world of infinite possibility constrained only by belief and action. Every great achievement throughout human history began as an impossibility until someone decided it was necessary. Every breakthrough started as an unreasonable idea until persistent effort made it inevitable. Reality, the same power that fueled these transformations, resides within you now, not as potential to be wished upon, but as capacity to be expressed through daily, disciplined investment in your own greatness. The price is substantial, but so is the reward: a life of achievement, contribution, and fulfillment beyond what most will ever experience. The moment of decision has arrived. The daily price awaits payment, Greatness stands ready to be claimed. What will you choose? How will you act? When will you begin? The answer will determine not just what you accomplish, but who you become. Not just the external measurements of success, but the internal experience of a life fully lived. According to your highest capabilities, choose greatness. Pay its price. Become the person you were created to be. The world awaits the unique contribution that only your fully developed talents can provide. The price of greatness is paid daily, and it begins now.